Hey guys, I'm gonna let you know that I am starting off this video using a filter. I'm sorry, but I look like absolute trash right now, and I really don't feel like getting all of myself together for this video. Regardless, I'm here to talk to you about Navy OCS, and this is going to be your pre-checklist for Navy OCS. I'm going to start this off with a disclaimer. Every single thing that I talk about in this video, with the exception of my personal opinions, are things that you can find publicly available on the internet, and I will link every single source or reference below. Lastly, in my disclaimer, I want to say that all of the views, commentaries, and opinions expressed here are my own opinions, and they are not representative of Navy Officer Candidate School, Officer Training Command, Newport, the Navy as a whole, or the United States government. Further, I'm going to include a copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use of purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, this is a teaching thing, scholarship, education, and research. So there will be some clips that I include in here that I am taking from other sources, and I'm using them for the purpose of education in this case. Okay. The very first thing that I recommend in your pre-OCS checklist is to watch videos like these. Watch as many videos as you can to learn as much as possible about OCS and to give yourself the best head start that you possibly can. I am making a series that is going to be as comprehensive as possible, but there are going to be a lot of things that I miss. The next thing that I recommend doing before you go to Navy OCS is making sure that you can pass a Navy PRT or a Navy physical readiness test. The standards are going to vary depending on which age group you fall into, as well as which gender category you fall into. The passing score on a PRT at OCS is a satisfactory medium, while in the real Navy, you can get a probationary, which is the step right below satisfactory medium. At OCS, if you don't get a satisfactory medium, you are going to get one more chance to take it, and then you will have to go into remedial holding company or H class or H company. You will then stay there for 3 weeks until you can class up. Now, I will also say that satisfactory medium is only passing for the first PRT that you take. It's called the initial strength test or the IST. And as you progress through the program, the standard is going to be raised for you because they expect that you will become more fit as you stay in the program longer. So in each phase of training, you will have another PRT, but so they have the IST, which is the initial strength test, and you do that when you are in your first phase of training. Then they have something called the in PRT, which you take during the second phase of training. They have the mid PRT when you're in your third phase of training, and then they have the out PRT when you are in your last phase of training. The mid PRT is going to be the highest standard that you're going to be held to, and that is going to be a good low. Now, because you are going to at some point be held to a good low standard, I recommend that before you go to OCS, you should make sure that you can pass a PRT with your age group and your assigned gender at a good medium score. Because when you go to OCS, you are going to be tired, you're going to be hungry. It's going to be very, very early when you take this initial strength test. And there's going to be drill instructors and chiefs or senior chiefs running around doing something called sharking. Sharking is where they come up to you and consider your form to be off, and they will tell the person who is counting that they need to subtract a certain number of push-ups or curl-ups. So if you don't have good form, which you probably won't because you'll be tired, then you need to make sure that you can do more to pass. So if you can achieve a good medium and then you get sharked down to a good low, you'll still pass. Now, when I say good medium, I do not mean good medium overall, i.e. you get an outstanding high in one thing and then you don't do so well on the other things and it just averages out to a good medium. When they are grading your PRT, you have to achieve, for the IST, at minimum, a satisfactory medium for all three categories. Those three categories were push-ups, curl-ups or sit-ups, and a 1.5 mile run. Since I went to OCS, I recall that they were switching it over from the curl-ups to a plank instead, but I'm not sure when that change is going to take effect or if it has already taken effect. Feel free to Google and see what the standard is when you go to OCS because it is changing all the time. All right, the next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get fit in other aspects. The boots that you are going to have to wear while you're at OCS weigh about 7 to 10 pounds combined. Further, you are going to be working with a decommissioned rifle. It's a rifle that you cannot shoot. It's been filled with lead, but it does weigh about 7 pounds. One thing that you are going to have to do if you look up Marine drill competition is you're going to have to do some of the movements that they do. So for example, they hold the rifle like this sometimes, or you have to hold it kind of up with this like weird little claw grip that you have. You're going to have to pull the slide back and hold it with, you know, your little hands like this sometimes. It can be really heavy. You might have to hold it out in front of you while you're doing a wall sit or something like that. One thing that they will try to do to prepare you for one of the movements in drill, which includes holding your left arm out to your left side and resting it on the shoulder of the person next to you. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about if you watch the Marine drill video that I've linked below, or I might just include it in this video. They will attempt to strengthen that left arm by having you hold your left arm in front of you for chow, and you'll have to hold your gouge pack or some other knowledge or something else like that. And it's funny because this movement versus this movement is two totally different muscle groups that you're going to be working with, but for chow hold procedures, when I was there, they did make you hold it out like this, and I've included videos to those below. So before I tell you what my recommendation is for this, please know that if you do take any of the advice that I give you, just know that I am not responsible for any injuries that you get as a result of following my advice. Obviously, consult with a medical professional and some sort of physical trainer or personal trainer before you do this to make sure that you don't injure yourself as a result of watching these videos. Again, I am not liable. I am not telling you what to do. I'm saying what I would have done if I had known that this was a thing that I was going to have to do at OCS. To prepare for this, what I recommend is you go and get some dumbbells, maybe 5 pounds each. That way you're doing 10 pounds total, and you just hold them out like this. Just get used to holding them for like 8 minutes at a time. And then I also recommend just holding one out like this for as long as you can, and just build up those muscles so that when you have to do it at OCS, you're not the person who drops the rifle and gets everyone really mad at you. Another thing, knowing what I know now with how heavy the boots are, is I would go out and get ankle weights that are 2.5 pounds each to 5 pounds each, and I would get used to walking around with them on just all day for 10 hours. Now for priors, just what I would do if I were a prior and I already had the boots is I would just jog in the boots, because there are going to be many times where you are going to have to jog or sprint, full on sprint, wearing these boots, and they are heavy. So now that you got all of your fitness down, the next thing that I recommend is getting your knowledge down. There is a book at OCS. It is everything that you need to know about OCS. It is the Officer Candidate Regulations, or the OCR. There is a copy of the old OCR floating around on the internet. I have also linked that below, and I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend you read that whole thing front to back, because you're going to need to know everything in there. At some point during OCS, every single thing in there will become relevant. So for the first phase of training, which is indoctrination phase, you are going to need, by the end of your 3 weeks in indoc phase, to know the entire Appendix Bravo verbatim. So the Appendix Bravo is listed on public.navy.mil. I've linked it below, and it includes the mission of the Navy core values, the Chief of Naval Operations core attributes. It includes the Star-Spangled Banner, the Anchors Aweigh song, the Marines hymn. It also includes your chain of command, the code of conduct, the general orders of a sentry, the watchstanding principles, the Navy officer rank structure, i.e. pay grade, rank, collar, device, sleeve on their dress blues, the Marine Corps officer rank structure, and then the Navy enlisted and Marine structure. You should also make sure that you have something called the discipline ditty down. For your chain of command, there's going to be a lot that you don't know until you actually get there and until you have that particular day lined up. So for example, the section leader is going to be someone from your class, one of your peers, it could even be you, and your section leader is going to change every single day. So you will have an inspection where you have to prove that you know enough of the Appendix Bravo knowledge verbatim, and on that day you don't know who your section leader necessarily is going to be, but it's going to be one of your classmates. As far as your class team, which includes your RDCs, your drill instructors, assistant class officer, and even who the lead class officer is at OCS, you're not going to be able to find those until you are actually there, because they change all the time depending on which class you're in. As far as the deputy director of OCS, the director of OCS, I don't remember if I was able to find those or not. I'm not going to Google it for you, but you should be able to Google everyone from the XO up on that chain of command. And the reason why I'm not going to Google it, by the way, for you is because even everyone leading all the way up to the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States, they change every couple of years. So if you are watching this video in 2020 versus if you are watching it in 2021, there might be a different person who is holding one of those offices. So what I will do is I will link where you can find those people, but just know that they are going to change and you need to make sure that you have the right ones right before you go to OCS. I went ahead and put on a little bit of makeup just to make me feel cute. Everything in Appendix Bravo you are going to have to know by the end of your 3rd week at OCS, or at least that was the case when I was there. As far as I know, it went from being a 12-week program to a 13-week program. I don't know how that affected each of the other weeks, each of the other phases of training. For the first phase of training, at the end of that phase, you have to do an inspection, and that inspection includes a knowledge portion, which is anything and potentially everything from Appendix Bravo. What I recommend is getting all of that down before you go there, because there is going to be a lot more to that inspection than just the knowledge portion. And if you can get a head start on the knowledge portion, you will be so thankful that you are not spending your time studying because you already know it, and instead just reviewing and then doing everything else that you're going to have to do for that inspection. Now, if you have a lot of time before you're going to go to Navy OCS, then I would also strongly recommend getting up to speed on the Appendix Charlie knowledge and the Appendix Delta knowledge. They might change the order of these by the time you watch this video or by the time you go, but at the time that I went, the Appendix Charlie knowledge included the Sailor's Creed, the birthday of the Navy, the first Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Navy, the birthday of the Marine Corps, the first Commandant of the Marine Corps, the 6 original frigates, the original ratings in the Navy, the meaning of USN on the Chief's anchor, the birthday of the rate of Chief Petty Officer, the birthday of the rates of Senior and Master Chief Petty Officer, the first MCPON, and the CNO's core attributes, as well as the 15 leadership traits. To remember the 15 leadership traits, there is a mnemonic device. It's JJ did tie buckle H. For my inspection, what they asked of me regarding the leadership traits was pick 2 favorites and recite them verbatim. Now, if you have a lot of time before going to OCS, I strongly recommend that you learn Appendix Delta knowledge, which includes the oath of office, which you have to know verbatim, and then it has a lot of information about the various platforms that the Navy has and the various missile systems that the Navy has. So you need to know, for aircraft, is it fixed wing or rotary? Rotary is a helicopter. You need to know the area of war that it's in, how it flies. So if it has a turbofan or a turbojet engine, you need to know any special information that it has. Is it supersonic or is it subsonic? And you need to know what it can shoot or what it can carry. For the missiles, is it an air-to-air missile? Is it air-to-ground? Is it subsonic, supersonic, beyond visual range? Which platforms carry it and what are its mission areas? For the naval guns, you need to know what they're carried on and how many rounds per minute. For the platforms, you need to know what area of warfare the platform is used, its propulsion, the various classes, and the armament. The next thing that I strongly recommend, in addition to getting your knowledge down and your fitness down, is kicking your caffeine habit. Monday through Saturday, there is going to be zero opportunity for you to get your hands on any caffeine. Until you reach Candio phase, that's going to be the case every single week. For me, I drank 7 to 12 cups of coffee every day while I was at Yale, and it's because our lab had this amazing $10,000 coffee maker, espresso maker, milk frother machine that you would normally only see in a coffee shop. So I had a strong dependency on coffee. I found out that I was going to OCS about a week before I actually went. I quit my caffeine habit cold turkey. I had a headache for about 3 days, and if I had waited until OCS to kick that caffeine habit, I would have had that headache while I was at OCS, which would have made my first 3 days there even more miserable than they already were. While we are on the subject of addictions, let's talk about cell phones. You will not have your cell phone while you are at OCS until you get to the final phase of training, with the exception of if you hold a particular leadership billet. If you are caught using it for non-official business, you will get fired, or you will get demerits, or something else really terrible will happen. It's considered an integrity violation. You could be kicked out of the program if you are caught doing that. So I don't recommend using it. I personally wouldn't even recommend taking one of those positions unless you really are like a big go-getter, and normally I am, but I recognize that this was not a position that I was even going to apply for. So knowing that you're not going to have your phone, I would quit using your phone. I was surprised by how much dependence I had on my phone for audiobooks to fall asleep to, or Netflix to fall asleep to, or YouTube to fall asleep to. You don't have access to any of that stuff when you're at OCS. It can come as a little bit of a shock if you are used to using all of those features, all of those apps, and then suddenly overnight you don't have them. So I knew, like I said, about a week before that I was going to OCS. So I just uninstalled all of that stuff. And it was really hard. In the same way that I had a caffeine withdrawal headache for 3 days, I also had a little bit of a withdrawal from using my phone. I mean, even something that you don't really think about, like being able to listen to music while you are running on a treadmill. You don't have that while you're at OCS, which means that when you are running your IST, you're not listening to music or watching a YouTube video. Cutting ties with your phone and cutting your dependency on your phone before you go is going to make your life so much easier. The next thing that I would do before going to OCS is changing your eating schedule. So a lot of people have a tendency to have a snack or a protein bar or a protein shake. You're not necessarily going to be authorized any of that. You cannot have snacks in your room. There are some class teams that will, if you put in for it in a chit, they will authorize you to have protein bars or protein powder, but more often than not, they're not going to do that, and especially not during the very first phase of training. If you guys have earned it, and if they deem it necessary, and every class team is different, then they might authorize those things. However, you are going to be eating 3 meals a day, and the meals are going to be at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. for breakfast. Your lunch is going to be sometime between 10:30 and 11:30, and then your dinner is going to be sometime between 5 and 6 p.m. And that's it. And you go to bed at 10 p.m. and you wake up at 5 a.m. What I would do before going to OCS is I would get used to that type of eating schedule. Further, I would also get used to that type of sleeping schedule. You need to be used to going to bed at 10 p.m. and waking up by 5 a.m. In the first phase of training, you're usually actually woken up around 4:30 a.m., but once you get in the rest of training, you'll be waking up usually around 5 a.m. When you eat, you are only authorized 12 minutes to finish all of your food. When you get to a later phase of training, they might authorize you to have 15 minutes to eat, but I would get used to eating all of your food and as much as possible in 12 minutes. So in addition to the cell phone habit and the caffeine habit, I would also recommend kicking any other habits that you have that you will not be able to maintain while you are at OCS. That includes dipping, smoking. You won't be able to do any of that. The other thing is you won't be able to take any supplements or any medication unless it is prescription medication approved by the Navy. As far as supplements, the only thing that you will be authorized is one daily multivitamin, and that's it. No pre-workout, no creatine. Any habits that you have, you will most likely not be able to maintain them at OCS, so I would kick any other habits that you have. Okay, in summary, what I would do before going to OCS is ensuring that I was fit enough to go to OCS. That means passing a PRT of at least a good medium, making sure that I can hold 7 to 10 pounds out in front of me or onto my side, making sure that I can run in boots that weigh 7 to 10 pounds. I would also make sure that I was up to speed on all of the knowledge that I'm going to be required to regurgitate. That's Appendix Bravo, Appendix Charlie, and Appendix Delta in the Officer Candidate Regulations. I would kick any habits that I have regarding cell phones or caffeine or smoking or drinking or using any supplements for my workouts. And lastly, I would change my eating habits and my sleeping habits so that they aligned with the eating and sleeping habits that I'm going to have while at OCS. All right, so that is my pre-OCS checklist of things that you should do before going to OCS. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments below. I will either respond to the comments or I might gather them all together and make a follow-up video. I hope you like this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.